Alright guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about body filler. There's a lot of controversy as to what's right, what's wrong when using body filler. This is geared more towards a restoration aspect. This isn't so much for the collision guys, but the restoration guys that want to do a real good job, want your work to last for a long time. A big thing, right away you got your panel ready, your metal work's done. First thing you're going to do is put epoxy on it. Always epoxy before filler. What that is going to do is protect the metal. Filler activator is made of benzoyl peroxide. You don't want peroxide over your bare metal. Also, filler doesn't have any sort of metal protection to it. All it's doing is encapsulating the metal. And if you have a pinhole, say, on your metal surface, there's air in that. Oxygen, gonna oxidize the metal. Quite a few vehicles that I've done, that I've stripped, where there was body filler done by somebody else a long time ago over metal, a lot of times there's rust hiding under that, and I got some examples I'll show you. That why that is that peroxide. There's the metal, one, couldn't have been prepped properly. Maybe they didn't get rid of the rust completely, but peroxide is a big thing with longevity of using body filler. Another thing that's going to help you out a lot with body filler is weighing the body filler when you mix it. What that's going to do is it's going to prevent the blotches. You know, if you have filler here and you make another batch of filler and you put some here, it's probably going to be a different shade of blue or shade of red or green, whatever color it is, because of the difference in the hardener mix. So weighing the filler 50-to-1 is going to give you a uniform color, for one, when you are coming back and filling your little imperfections here and there, but more importantly, it's going to make the filler sand uniformly. It's not going to sand harder here or softer there, and that's going to help a lot with getting the car straight to begin with. Also, weighing your filler is going to help everything expand and contract at the same rate in extreme temperatures. If you've ever seen a black car in the hot sun, sometimes you get a phantom wave, they call it. The panel heats up, gets real hot, things start to move around, and weighing your filler is going to let it be uniform. It's going to let it expand and contract at the same rate because it's activated uniformly. So depending on what type of epoxy you put over your bare metal, you have a 7-day recoat window, they call it. So you should not ever put filler over epoxy after an hour. Even if the tech sheet says you can, you should always wait at least 24 hours. And before you put filler on, prep the area. What I like to do is I'll epoxy the car, I'll start blocking it out a little bit with 150, see where my lows are. I'll come back with a number 2 graphite pencil, circle my areas, and then I'll prep those lows with, I'll take 80 just by hand, rough that epoxy up before I put filler over it. And with that epoxy, with the 7-day recoat window, when you get at it up to before 7 days, if you put filler on that, you're going to get a mechanical bond from your sand scratches, but you're also going to get a chemical bond because that epoxy is still open. It's still accepting new solvents to adhere. Now, it's not necessary to get all your filler on within 7 days. It's not necessary, but it definitely will help with adhesion. When you use a high build epoxy, it's a little different. Their recoat window is much smaller, and for the most part not recommended. So using a high build epoxy, I will always let it sit 2 days before putting anything on it. You can sand it the next day. It might sand a little, might get a little gummy, but you can sand it. But don't put anything over a high build epoxy for 2 days because you risk trapping solvents. That high build epoxy is so thick, a lot of times 5 mils per coat. You need to give that time for those solvents to come out. Another thing with the uniformity factor is using, say I use VP 2050 high build epoxy or whichever high build epoxy you like to use that over bare metal. do your filler work, now it's time to prime again. A lot of guys use spray poly. Well, that's fine, but when you start stacking all these different materials on, they're going to expand and contract at different rates, and they're going to be more flexible, less flexible. So I like to use high build epoxy all the way up to paint. It's sandable, it's a high build, that's the whole point of it. It accepts paint well. I'll sand high build epoxy out to 600 on a block and then seal it and paint it. So the process that I usually do is get the bare metal properly prepped, get your metal work done, hammer dolly, then you're going to epoxy. I like to use VP 2050. It's a real good DTM epoxy, high build epoxy. We'll epoxy the vehicle, panel, whatever it is, and then we'll give it 2 days. Come back, do our blocking, find our lows, circle them with a number 2 graphite pencil. Don't ever use a marker or anything with ink or dyes in it. A number 2 pencil is graphite, same as guide coat. It's not gonna come back. It's not gonna show any weird lines and later on.